Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd. Today we're talking about Strange New Worlds, the season finale, and there's a lot to unpack, so we're not going to go over all of it, but hit some of the points about it. First of all, the whole story of before Battelle is meeting her destiny, she makes a gift basically to her and Pike of creating an alternate reality in which they are able to marry, he to not die in that cadet training exercise, and for them to have a child, see her get engaged, live to old age, and then snap back into what we'll call reality. And much of it is based on the inner light. This is a script that was written by Morgan Gondel. I had a pleasure of meeting him and bought a copy of his script. This was the writer's version of the script, and it was, of course, rewritten for television. There were certain budgetary things that they couldn't do, but for the most part, it was kept pretty much intact. And it was interesting to talk to him about this. If they had to steal an idea, this was a good idea to steal, because this does do something that we kind of all wanted for Pike. We were hoping maybe that he wouldn't have to, this one place they could violate canon, let him live. He's such a good character. We want to see more of him. But in this case, it's not to be. He's going to have to live up to the point where he has the accident of where Spock mutinies and takes him to Talos 4, where he's able to live the rest of his life in illusions. And some people say, well, that violates canon because there was Battelle. Why would he want to go off with Vina? Well, Vina could be anybody that he wanted, and that could have some influence on that as well. So, I'm not a person that worships at the altar of canon. I think that when we have to stop and think about it, this is all fantasy anyway. It's not history. And if you want to look at it in a way of how do you put together things that are somewhat contradictory, think about a story told by 2 or 3 different people. Will you get the exact same story out of all of those people? I hate to bring up biblical things, but if you look at the Gospels, the same story is told from 3 different viewpoints, and there are some differences there. However, we know that the important parts are still there. And you could almost say that same thing about Star Trek, though I don't want to give it any kind of biblical proportions, honestly. Nevertheless, what starts this all in motion is Ensign Gamble, who was basically killed by one of the criminals that was imprisoned in Vesda. And in doing so, he looked like he was still alive. He had all the memories. He was able to fool Mbenga for a time until it just became quite obvious that there was no life in the body. It was just apparently functioning without anything else. They think that they have transported it into the buffer and safely away from everybody, but it doesn't work that way. It was able to basically control the computer, beam itself back, and become the protagonist, the antagonist of the story. So he has taken on a cult leader kind of status. He is out to free all of the people from Vesda, take them to Skygowan, and have take over that planet and do whatever megalomaniacs always do. We have to have a planet and take it over. So that's where we come into this story, and the details of it don't much matter, except that, of course, we know that the bad guy's not going to win. Now, they had called on help from the Farragut, which was close by, and interestingly, their captain had no lines, but Kirk talked directly with Pike, and they decided that it would be reasonable to come in and help. And obviously, then with Chekhov's gun, they bring in the other ship. They're going to need it, and they do. And it all has to do with having to fire phasers by both ships at the same point at exactly the same time, and the computers can't do it. Now, that goes to show that Star Trek computers, and they've always been this way, are not as advanced as our computers today. By the 24th century, somehow they lose all the knowledge about how computers are supposed to work, and while they can talk to you, ours can too, you have to lead them on a whole string of questions before you get what you want. A Google search, generally speaking, would be more useful than what their computers tell them half the time. Nevertheless, also in the story, you have to have your heroes do all things. If you had it just done automatically, it would be not too exciting. So in order to be able to coordinate the firing, they have to have a very close mental link, and Spock can do that with his mind meld, and he picks Jim Kirk to do so. This is because they've met before, they've got along very well, they seem to understand each other, they both have very high intellect. These things were in Spock's mind. And through the mind meld, though, they know each other much more intimately, and it says something about their friendship going forward. We also find out that through either 4.5 Vulcans or having had a relationship with Spock, Lon is now able to do a neck pinch. Now, in the original series, Kirk has said, I wish I could do that, and Spock says, I have tried to teach you, which is to say that it is something that can be taught and something that can be learned, not necessarily have to be a Vulcan in order for that to work. So that's perfectly reasonable there. And so we see the end of Captain Battelle. We knew it was going to have to happen once again because of Pike's destiny. But through this little story, this Inner Light type story, they are able to have a happy ending that he will continue to remember, even if it is, if not an alternate timeline, a complete fantasy. But certainly one that was real enough that he went to look at his apron to make sure that it didn't say Chef Pike on it. It didn't. So that's what we get out of this. I liked the costuming when they went to Skygowan. They had to be incognito, and that worked out very well with Chapel and Uhura and Mbenga. And the other thing is that you see a great deal of character development, not only with Scotty, who, upon being invited to his first captain's table, is, of course, dressed formally. It's the same trick that they pulled on Uhura. Apparently, that is a rite of passage there. And other little things that make watching the show pleasant. I hesitate to say things about the haters that are out there, and there's some out there. You've probably read them. There are a couple of sites that get a whole lot more hits than this one does because everything they see, they hate. Oh, this is the end of Doctor Who. This is the end of Star Trek. This is the end of everything because they're not doing it my way. If they're doing new stories, well, we need to have like the old stories where if they do the old stories, they say, oh, that's just picking up old stories and redoing them. Well, obviously you can't please them, and even if it does, it wouldn't benefit them to say that it were. So I get a little irritated at reading and seeing such as that we could have the original series and nothing else, and would that be enough? Would you like to have life without the Next Generation, without Deep Space Nine, without Voyager, without Enterprise, all of which had their problems? And the same thing with Strange New Worlds, with Picard, with Section 38, and, of course, with Discovery. The different viewpoints of what Star Trek is is how these shows came about, and that's what keeps them different. Otherwise, you fall in the trap in stories like Voyager and Enterprise, where they were basically rehashing the same kind of dialogue that they had in Next Generation. So you can either have it boring, or you can have it exciting and perhaps not completely canonical, but then this is entertainment. And by this time, perhaps it's not even for our age group. Perhaps it is trying to bring in the people who would watch Game of Thrones or the Marvel Universe. So anyway, I would like to know what you think. Please put it in the comments below. And of course, if you have not subscribed and liked, please do that as well. I would appreciate it greatly. We'll be back next week with another Babylon 5, with another conversation with Professor O, and maybe something else. We don't have any more Star Trek for a while, so we may look into something else, but we'll let you know. Until then, don't go far.